Hey everyone, it's Chris from Platform 9. In this video, I'm going to give you a quick introduction and overview of Platform 9 Managed Kubernetes. After logging in, we're going to land on what we call the Kubernetes IDE. And this is an application where you can select a cluster, choose your namespaces, and very quickly start working with applications as they're running live in your Kubernetes cluster. All this data that just loaded is based off of my RBAC inside of that Kubernetes cluster. This means you can very quickly and easily customize access for any user in your environment interacting with your Kubernetes cluster. That means you can come over here on the left, drill into workloads, see your running applications, and start troubleshooting, testing, augmenting, and working with that application in real time. For example, I might say, what deployments do I have running? Here I can see I've got Virt Controller. This is actually related to KubeVirt, which we'll touch on in a bit. I can drill into this. It'll pull up all the relevant information to this deployment, including its pods, any events across all of those pods, log files per pod, and importantly, show me the YAML that I can jump in and edit in real time, but only if I have the right RBAC. So how did we get to this point? We used our infrastructure-focused application where administrators can come in, build, upgrade, and augment clusters in real time across data centers, edge locations, as well as public clouds. On this screen right now, what you can see is I've got 5 cloud providers, 7 clusters, and 4 nodes running, as well as a few active issues. I can see that I have 2 external clusters where I haven't installed the Platform 9 external cluster operator, and I actually have 2 clusters right now that are going through the process of being created. So one has 0 of 7 steps completed, the other one has 4 of 10. And then down the bottom here, I have 3 of my favorite clusters that I want to see in real time, very quickly, what's going on. Immediately, I can see that this single node cluster has some failed pods. And that was the cluster we were just looking at. If I want to drill in a little bit further into my clusters, I click on my cluster page and I can get an overview about what's going on. Again, I can see I have 2 unhealthy clusters. These are clusters that are actually getting created. They're using what we call Cluster API, and one is building on generic AWS EC2 instances, and the other one is actually being built using EKS. Below that, we can see we have a number of clusters running what we call BareOS, which could be bare metal or virtual machines on VMware, KVM, OpenStack. Importantly here as well, I can see this little exclamation mark. This means that I have an upgrade available. And if I was to choose this cluster and click upgrade, I'm going to be brought to an upgrade modal where I can choose the version I want to upgrade to and the upgrade strategy. In this case, either node by node or a percentage of nodes in groups/batches. If I was to drill into a node, let's say my single node cluster here, I'm going to get a quick overview of the resources that are being utilized. I can see the nodes. I can click here to get a detailed node health view. I can come over here to add-ons and see an overview of all of the Platform 9 managed add-ons, their health. And if I want to edit my add-ons, I can quickly come in here and start customizing and configuring these so that they're correctly configured for my environment. Importantly, these clusters are getting built. Let's take a look at those. Here I've got one on EKS. I can see it's provisioning. The infrastructure control plane is still waiting. And of course, node groups are running. If I drill into this, I'm going to get a real-time view of what's happening within EKS as this infrastructure is being built. I can see an overview, of course, no data, no cluster. If I click on infrastructure, I can see what's going on around the provisioning of the EKS infrastructure itself. I can see what's happening around the provisioning of the control plane. And once that cluster is up and running, I will see my node groups and their provision state as well. And of course, any managed add-ons that are being provisioned by Platform 9 are also available here. Now, prior I mentioned KubeVirt. If I come over here to KubeVirt, what we'll be able to do is interact with virtual machines that are actually running within a Kubernetes cluster. This is an overview page. It's showing me that I have one cluster running KubeVirt, that KubeVirt status is healthy, and a snapshot of all of my virtual machines. If I want to view each individual VM, I click on my Virtual Machines tab, all VMs, and now I can see the 3 VMs I have and the status that they're in. Of course, Here is one that's starting, here one that has a data volume error, and another one that's running. If I drill into this, I can see a lot more information about my virtual machine. I can kick off a VM migration, which will use live migration between nodes, just like you would in a VMware platform. I can click edit to see information around my VM, change the cores and memory limits, as well as interact with features such as CPU pinning and more. If I come down here to networks, I'm also able to come in and in real time augment the networking capabilities of this VM. And this is incredibly useful if you have virtualized network functions that are running or VMs with multiple network interfaces that you might want to configure. All of this is packaged and managed and maintained by Platform 9. Closing back out to here and looking at that Kubernetes cluster again, if I want to know what's going on with an app, this is where I come to work. If I wanted to work with any of my clusters, be it upgrade, provision, augment them in any way, I'm going to come to the infrastructure app. And if I want to start working with my virtual machines, I'm going to go over here to KubeVirt and interact with each of those virtual machines individually. Thank you for your time. That was a brief introduction and overview of Platform 9.